Hello students, welcome to La Excellence. Welcome to our session on February current affairs where we'll be focusing from prelims 2017 point of view. As I have already told you, mostly we will be covering from prelims point of view, and at this time I request you to use this lecture to revise whatever you have and also try to see if you have missed any topics, right? So let's quickly begin with what are the important areas that are required from February. So if we see, the first issue is actually with respect to reforms in funding for political parties, where right from the budget, everywhere there were talks about the black money after November 8th, and especially the money being involved in this for political funding. And here the government has thought of two major things. One is cap on cash donations, where we will be saying that more than 2000 rupees one individual cannot donate. And at the same time, there is something called as electoral bonds, which will be issued by a notified bank, right? No one can go and purchase this with the help of cash. They have to take it through checks or digital payments. And these bonds will be given to the political parties. And the political parties, if they deposit in their accounts, the money will be going to their accounts. And their accounts has to be shared with the Election Commission. This, they feel that it would help in bringing some transparency in funding to political parties. Whatever the state can do within its own limits, it is trying to do at its best. So, electoral bonds and cap on cash donations, high possibility a question can come this year, mainly when we are talking about black money and its role in corruption and also in politics, right? So please go through the details. They may change the number 2000 to 20,000, or they may change it to 200 as well. And they may say electoral bonds can be given by the political parties rather than saying it can be given by a notified bank. So these type of factual errors, please be careful. Whenever these questions come, most of the people get excited. I have read this already, so let me just mark, but go through these mistakes carefully, right? After seeing this, the next major issue is with respect to Rohingya refugees. Along with that, we have also come across lot of issues like Kurds, Baluch and all. Whenever we look at this, we have to see what is the difference between a refugee, migration and internally displaced people. When I say internally displaced people, these are the ones who are present within the country. So if someone has been displaced because of a hydropower project from Arunachal Pradesh to Nagaland, they will be called as internally displaced people. Migrants are the one who move from one country to another country. We use migration when we say within the country as well, but usually internationally when we are using migration is from one country to another country. Here when we say migration, there are two things. One is illegal migration and the other one is legal migration. When we say illegal migration, Bangladesh people have to come to India. Whenever they come to India, they have to take permission from our country. If they take permission and come, we call them to be legal migrants, else we call them to be illegal migrants. At the same time, when we talk about refugees, these are the people who leave their home country because of the fear of persecution in their home country because of their ethnicity or anything. So here you need to understand the difference between refugees and migration. Migration happens because of push and pull factors, whereas refugees are formed mainly because of push factors, and it is not the pull factors which is making them to move towards a particular country. When some refugees choose any country specifically based on the pull factors, then they are not called as refugees, then they are termed to be migrants. So this difference is very, very important for you. The next issue is actually associated with Trump, and whenever it comes to Indians being troubled there, one major thing we all come across is about the H1B visa. So UPSC may ask you, what is it? What is H1B visa? It is a non-immigrant visa given by US to employ skilled workers from other countries for various specialized fields of occupation for a certain period of time. Here you should know it is given for skilled workers for specialized fields and only for a certain period of time. Now, what Trump has done, he has increased, he has said that if you have to give H1B visa, then the salary of these people have to be beyond a particular limit, because most of the countries used to use this H1B visa and send workers for low cost. So this usually used to trouble lot of American people as well. So he has ensured that he is increasing the basic salary so that only skilled workers are being taken up, right? After this, Rwanda is back in news. Our Prime Minister, President visited Rwanda, and because of that, it may be important for us to know about Rwanda. Rwanda in history is known for its Hutus and Tutsi fight. So one, in geography through maps, I'll be showing you Rwanda. The other thing, Hutus and Tutsis or Tutsi massacre, Tutsi genocide is associated with which country? It is associated with Rwanda. It is very, very important for us to remember this particular fact. The next important issue is about Taiwan. As you are all aware, after Trump calling the Taiwan Prime Minister or President, it's very, very important for us to look at Taiwan from this point of view. Once the President of Taiwan has started receiving calls and also their cooperation with other countries as enhanced, they have come up with a new policy called as New Southbound Policy. If you are aware, Taiwan is not recognized as a state under United Nations, right? But with this, now Taiwan is planning to go and reach out to almost all the countries through which it has trade links. And from this, Taiwan want to establish an independence from China, and it wants to reduce its dependence on China. So what is the new southbound policy? One, they may ask you, new southbound policy is of which country? So you should say Taiwan. Then what is it? It is the initiative of the Government of Taiwan under President Tsai Ing-wen to enhance cooperation and exchanges between Taiwan and 18 countries in Southeast Asia, South Asia and Australasia. Remember, India is also part of this 18 countries. You need not remember all the 18 countries, they won't ask you. But if they ask you, is India part of new southbound policy, you have to say yes. Fine. So this issue is important. Then we have some factual information. Operation Sankat Mochan is associated with what? Evacuation of nationals from South Sudan. And the second important thing, World Employment and Social Outlook report is of International Labour Organization. India Innovation Index was brought up by World Economic Forum, NITI Aayog, World Intellectual Property Organization and the Cornell University. Nowadays, because of the questions on the reports, we have to look at them. But what is more important this year is about the operations and exercises which we have seen in India yearbook and also in different current affairs. Please make a note of that separately and try to remember it. High possibility we may get questions about this. The next economic issue is advance payment agreements. Here one thing you should all remember is most of the countries or most of the companies are not willing to come and invest in India for a simple reason that today the tax policies are different and tomorrow the tax policies will be completely different. And given the complexities, they are not able to understand what is the actual taxation policy that will be implemented for that particular person or a particular company or a company originating from a particular country. Everything varies. For example, if India has a free trade agreement or CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement with any particular country, then if any investments are coming from that country, then we will be giving certain tax exemptions. But this will not be given accurately anywhere. Because of this, companies thinking that maybe that is applicable for me. They think that they have to pay less. But later when they actually realize they have to pay more, usually this is leading to a lot of conflict between the tax department and the companies. And this is making a lot of companies to move out of India, or moving out of India is also a problem for those companies. So to reduce this, we have advance payment agreements where initially itself the government will be telling them what will be the method which will be implemented with that particular company in India. So this can be between the taxpayer and the country directly, or this can be between the taxpayer, company, and the company from where the taxpayer is coming. So for example, this is between Vodafone and India, this is between Vodafone, UK and India. And then you have multilateral advance payment agreements. For example, if I have with European Union, then it will be with India, Vodafone and European Union, right? So this is very, very important. They may ask you with respect to what is advance payment agreements. Definition is important. Then you have something called as Credit Enhancement Guarantee Fund. After increasing non-performance assets and also the fear of not doing payment by these people, banks are not willing to give loans, especially for some projects which are viable in long term. So there is something called as Credit Enhancement Guarantee Fund by the government, which will provide an additional source of guarantee that the borrower will not default on their loan. I hope you are understanding. Because of NPA, the negative side effect is banks are not willing to give loans to everyone. So to ensure that loans go to the people, then only the GDP can improve. So they have established Credit Enhancement Guarantee Fund. According to this, if the bank is not willing to give you loan, if you approach them, they will say that we will guarantee that this person will not default. So on the basis of that, they will be giving you the loan. So this is Credit Enhancement Guarantee Fund. And there is another policy of the government with respect to transport or also development. This is called as Transit Oriented Development Policy. What it says is, it enables people to live within walking or cycling distance from transit corridors like metros. Simple thing is, so metro connectivity or monorail connectivity within the place or within the district will be set up in such a way that the nearest metro for you will be within the walking distance or cycling distance. So this should be the policy of the government. You might have also read in India Yearbook, they say that the policy of transport should be to move people, not vehicles. That is, it is not focused on enhancing or elaborating the roads, but it should be focused on increasing the public transport system, and these public transport systems should be available to almost all the people within their walking or cycling distance. Possibility of this being asked in prelims is less, but in mains they may ask you about this policy. So please be aware of this. Then you have a web portal. You know that every ministry is having one or the other app or portal. There may be a possibility that UPSC may ask you a question in match the following, where they may give you different apps and say which app is for which ministry. TAMRA, web portal and mobile app of Ministry of Mines. The next important thing with respect to cyber security is establishment of Cyber Swachhta Kendra. According to this center will help in removal of botnet and malware. You need to know from cyber security definitions what is botnet and malware. Here we are going to see it is a part of Government of India's Digital India initiative under the Ministry of Electronics and Department and Information Technology to create a secure cyberspace by detecting botnet infections in India and to notify, enable cleaning and security systems of end users. It is important to ensure that when we are moving towards a digital era, security of that is also important. You might have come across the WannaCry or the ransomware. So from all these points of view, it is important for you to know the government action, that is Cyber Swachhta Kendra. So what is the exact role of this? The center operates in close coordination and collaboration with internet service providers and product or antivirus companies. This website provides information and tools to users to secure their systems and devices. And this center is being operated by CERTIN under the provisions of Section 70B of the Information Technology Act. So these 3 points can be given as 1, 2 and 3, and you might have to remember this particular clause. So if they give 1 only, 2 only or 3 only, you should be able to answer. Cyber Swachhta Kendra, if at all a question comes, high possibility they may ask you about these points. So if you open the Cyber Swachhta Kendra, you actually get what are the problems associated with Botnet. That is, if your computer system or device is part of Botnet, then what can happen? Information on your computer could be stolen. Your computer may be used to send out spam messages to others. That is the reason few people say, if you get messages from a particular mail, don't open. Your computer or system or device could be used for launching attacks on other computers or system. So you may be called to be a culprit for doing hacking or any other malware related thing with other computers. So it's very, very important for you to look at this. So if we have all these problems, what are the tools that the government is suggesting to use? That is mKavach, USB Pratirudh, App Samvid, Browser JS Guard, Free Bot Removal Tool. All these are the tools which are available for removing botnet. So the second type of question is, which of the following are used for removal of botnet? Is it fine? So this is important. Then there is another naval exercise to ensure there is readiness of the Navy, IAF and Army. Usually whenever Navy is involved, you all should remember that Navy takes the help of Army and IMF, or whenever you have to take your Air Force and Army to distant places, Navy will be used. So a combat exercise to bring all these three together and see whether they are ready is Tropex 2017. High possibility they may ask you, please look at this. Then because of Operation Olive, where the Indian Coast Guard along with Odisha government is planning to safe breed of Olive Ridley turtles, we have come across Gahirmatha Marine Sanctuary at least thrice this year. High possibility they may ask you. And you also have come across Olive Ridley turtles. Please go through this carefully from environment and ecology point of view. In all these lectures, I have already given you enough information that is required about Olive Ridley turtles, right? And when we talk about Indian Coast Guard, which is actually required or which is actually taking care of this, its headquarters is in New Delhi, and remember, it is under Ministry of Defence. Many people get confused that Indian Coast Guard is under Ministry of Home Affairs. No, it is under Ministry of Defence. Then you have a treaty on outer space affairs. It's very important for us to look this year mainly because the treaty is almost 50 years when it was first signed. United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs is the one which actually looks into it. It promotes international cooperation in peaceful uses of outer space. If you are aware, when we talk about testing of nuclear weapons, it should not be done in the outer space as well. Now, this UN Office for Outer Space Affairs is actually part of United Nations Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. It is a secretariat and it manages the UN platform for space-based information for disaster management and emergency response, UN SPIDER. So they may ask you with respect to this as well. UN Spider, especially you have to talk about UN Office for Outer Space Affairs, right? So as it was signed 50 years back, and as it was in Feb news, high possibility they may ask you with respect to this. Then you have unmanned aerial vehicles of the country. They are Rustum, Nishant, Panchi, Lakshya and Daksh. When we say unmanned aerial vehicles, there won't be any pilot who will be sitting inside, and it can be controlled through remote sensing or remote controls. Usually the UAVs are used to get information, or it is used for surveillance in border areas. So whenever Kargil or anything happened, we did not get actual information about what was there on the side of Pakistan. So to understand what exactly was there, we need these type of unmanned aerial vehicles. Nowadays all these are made by Indian DRDO itself, that is, it is indigenously built. The next important achievement this year by our DRDO is actually with respect to NETRA. What exactly does that mean? It is a vigilance or surveillance system which can be used to airborne early warning and control system. For example, if you have an aircraft and if you use NETRA on top of it, it actually gives you 240-degree coverage, and it tells you if there is any weapons, missiles or aircrafts present closer to it within 200 kilometers range. And it uses electronically scanned radar, voice communication system, and it also has a self-protection suit against other attacks. Why is this required? This is very, very important for the aircrafts to work effectively. Most of the cameras or most of the surveillance things, whenever you see, they can cover only maximum 120 degree. But this is having 240-degree coverage. So this will actually help us to cover most of the region, and it will also help our aircrafts to combat effectively. So India is the fourth nation after US, Russia and Israel to have its own indigenously developed airborne early warning and control system. So this itself can be asked, what is NETRA? Airborne early warning and control system, right? So please be careful about it. Then we are all aware that India has clearly said we will never use nuclear weapons first. That is, we will use nuclear weapons only if some other country uses nuclear weapons against us. So if we say our nuclear weapons is only to defend our territory, then we should have the missile technologies which will be used to defend our territory as well. So India has gone for ballistic missile defense system. In this there are two vehicles or two missiles that are usually used. One is Prithvi Defence Vehicle. This actually takes care of weapons coming in exo-atmospheric vehicle, that is 80 kilometers, 90 kilometers. If something comes, they are in a position to blast them. Ashwin is endo-atmospheric. Sometimes some low range ballistic missiles may be used so that there is no enough time for our missiles to fight back. Even at that time we have this, but usually the exo-atmospheric one is very, very important. So India has a double-layered defense system capable of tracking and destroying hostile missiles both inside, that is endo, and outside the Earth's atmosphere, that is exo-atmosphere. Then in this year, if you ask me, is there any topic from where we can expect a question for sure? It can be with respect to heat waves. Especially they may ask you a definition of heat waves from the Indian Meteorological Department point of view. So what exactly is this? I have already given in the magazine, but still, just to revise, heat wave is not to be considered till the temperature of a station reaches at least 40 degrees Celsius for plains and 30 degrees Celsius for hilly regions. That is, if the temperature is above 40 degree or reaches 40 degrees Celsius on any plain area, we call it to be an heat wave. And for hilly areas above 30 degree, we call it to be an heat wave. The reason is with increasing height, temperature decreases. So we are actually saying if in hilly areas it is 30 degree, when it comes to plains, it becomes 40 degree. Then when normal maximum temperature of a station is less than or equal to 40 degrees Celsius, that is, for example, let's take few places in Rajasthan and all. Normally they see 40 degrees Celsius. Then if this becomes 45 or 46 degrees Celsius, then it becomes a heat wave. But if it becomes 47 degrees Celsius, we call it to be severe heat waves, right? Then when the normal temperature of a station is more than 40 degree, normally you see that it is 42 or 45, then increase of 4 to 5 degree. For example, if it is 42, it becomes 46. If it is 45, it becomes 49. Then it becomes heat wave. Increase by 6 degree becomes severe heat wave. That is, from 42 plus 6 is 48 degree. 45 plus 6, 51 degree makes it severe heat wave. In case the normal temperature of a station is more than 45 degrees Celsius. For example, Rajasthan, if I am going, if it is more than 45 degree, normally it is 50 degree, right? Then irrespective of the increase or decrease, we say that there is heat waves, right? So this year it is very, very important for us to remember these definitions. Then we have to see about Irrawaddy dolphins. We have already seen about Ganges dolphin, which is present in Ganga and Brahmaputra. These Irrawaddy dolphins are present in water bodies of Bhitarkanika National Park and Gahirmatha Marine Sanctuary. As I told you, this year, high possibility Gahirmatha Marine Sanctuary can be asked, right? These Irrawaddy dolphins, where are they present or found is in these two. They are present in most of the regions, but in India, these were the places where they were significantly present. The next important issue is actually about finding a new continent, that is Zealandia, which is New Zealand and the surrounding areas. It is said that for anything to be called as a new continent or a continent itself, the crust must be thicker than that found on the ocean floor. There should be a distinctive geology, that is the geology of that area should be different from what is there in the surrounding areas. It should have a well-defined area. You should say that Asian continent is completely different from the European continent. And the elevation of that area should be either high or below the surrounding areas. So the 4 conditions for anything to be called as a continent is, that is, the crust must be thicker than that found on the ocean floor. You all know that continental crust will be thicker than the oceanic floor, but when it comes to density, oceanic floor will be much denser than the continental floor. Then there should be distinctive geology between the oceanic floor and the continental floor. You have Sial and Saima. At the same time, you should say that geographically it has a well-defined area, and you should say, okay, this is the area which forms continent, and this has to be above its own surrounding areas, right? So this is important. Then you might be aware of this, but still I'm telling you, Barren Islands are the only active volcanoes in India. So please remember, if at all they ask you from geography, which is the only island active volcano in India, it is Barren Islands. Then in geography, there is something called as RIP tides. So usually we know that tides move in this fashion, correct? Ebb or tidal jet, and these are powerful currents running perpendicular to the shore. They pull the water into the ocean. If you have the shore line like this, usually the water will be moving in this direction. Here we need to understand that the currents, usually the tides are associated with the moon or sun, correct? but here it is associated with the shoreline. Shape of the shoreline usually determines the movement of these tides. So there is a project going on with respect to rip tides. So just go through this carefully. That is, here you have to know that these are powerful currents running perpendicular to the shore, and they pull the water into the ocean. Usually you see that tides, they move onto the land and then they move out during ebb. Correct? During ebb, we usually see water will be moving into the ocean. Right? RIP tides or rip tides, usually we see that if you have a sea floor, it will be always moving towards the ocean. That is why it is called as ebb jet or tidal jet. Correct? The second important factor is tides are usually because of moon or sun, neap tides or spring tides or whatever you call. It is because of the influence of sun or moon, but rip tides are usually because of the shape of the shoreline. And at last, we have two important projects of the government. One Tejaswini project, which is signed between India and World Bank to empower adolescent girls in Jharkhand. A very important project, they may ask you. It is between India and IMF. So please be careful. It is between India and World Bank. Then you have Hamari Dharohar scheme, where the plan is to spread awareness about minority culture and heritage in India. You have things like Nai Roshni and all, which is associated with minorities. About their culture, spreading of their culture is through Hamari Dharohar scheme. It's very, very important. Minority related schemes will be usually asked. So guys, apart from this, if you can see the Feb magazine, it will be beneficial. I have gone through most of the current affairs, and I have seen from prelims point of view, these are some of the issues which may be beneficial. So if you have already read this, you can revise. If you have not read, my suggestion to you is those topics which you would have left, you can revise them carefully, right? So we will be releasing geography through maps in couple of days. Maximum by Sunday, you will be getting the video, so you can revise them again. Till now, we were actually looking at different projects of different countries, and we were also waiting for some of the major issues to happen. From now, most of the questions will not be asked in prelims. Maximum till now, the questions will be asked. So we have tried to cover whatever we can give till this day, right? So thank you guys. Thanks for watching.